Hello my crochet friends, this is Sarah from Ned and Mimi, and in this video we are going to crochet the star stitch, or have also seen this stitch pattern called the Marguerite stitch. So this stitch pattern is absolutely beautiful, and at first it might seem a little bit tricky, but honestly once you get the hang of it you will be able to work away without even thinking about it. So I have used this stitch pattern to make this cute little washcloth. And I do have a free crochet pattern to accompany the video, and you can find that on my website nedandmimi.com, and it's also linked below. So in the written pattern I have also included instructions on how you can modify this stitch pattern to make it in any size that you like. Now, before I get started, I do want to tell you that this particular dishcloth is part of a set of 3 coordinating patterns that you can also find linked below. Each pattern is completely unique, but together I think they do make a really lovely complementary set. Now, in terms of materials, if you are making the dishcloth with me, you will need a worsted weight cotton yarn and a 5mm or letter H crochet hook. And for this stitch pattern, I do recommend having a stitch marker on hand as well, just to help a little bit with stitch placement at the start and end of your rows. So without further ado, let's get started. So let us begin with a slip knot, and for this stitch pattern you can chain any multiple of 2 plus 3, so I am going to begin with a chain of 15. Okay, so there is my starting chain. Now if we just flip over, you will see that we have all these little back bumps here all the way along, and it is those bumps that we're going to work into for our first row. So normally I do this anyway, and usually it's optional if you work into these back bumps or work into a different loop, but for this stitch pattern it's actually going to be much better if you do work into those, and you're going to get a much neater edge, and it is going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to work our first star stitch now, and we're going to begin by inserting our hook into this very first back bump here, so the first chain from the hook. So normally with most stitch patterns you'll find that you'll skip at least 1 chain from the hook and then begin working from there, but for this stitch pattern we're going to go right into the back bump of that first chain. So let's just find it there. We'll insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and now we're going to do the same thing into each of the next 4 chains. So effectively we're going to be working a single crochet 5 together across the first 5 chains. So let's go ahead now and insert our hook into the next back bump, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then into each of the next 3. So now we have 6 loops on our hook, and we're just going to yarn over and pull through all of those 6 loops, and that is our first star stitch almost done. So to finish it off, we just do a chain 1 to close it off, and this chain 1 creates a little space here, and that's also called the eye of the stitch, so you'll hear me refer to that later on. Now before we go on to the next stitch, I'm just going to pause for 1 second here, and let's have a look at what we have. So this is our chain 1, this is the top of our single crochet 5 together, so the top of our star stitch, and then here we have that very first chain that we worked into. So I am just going to grab a stitch marker and mark that first chain, and this is just going to make our lives a little bit easier when we come to finish row 2, because we're going to need to work into the top of that turning chain. So if you've watched any of my videos thus far, you will know that I love stitch markers, so if I have an opportunity to mark something with a stitch marker, I'm going to take it. So away we go with our next star stitch. So this is also going to have 5 legs, just like we did here with our first stitch. The first leg is going to be into the eye that we created with our chain 1. So we'll insert our hook into that eye, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now our next leg is actually going to be into the last leg, so this little loop here of our first star stitch. So let me just get my yarn needle just to show you where that is, this leg here. So in we go there, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now our third leg is going to be into this chain, so the back bump of the chain where we worked the last leg of our first stitch. So I know it seems like there are a lot of steps to working these stitches, but honestly, once you've done a few of them, you won't even need to think about it. So in we go to that same chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we've 2 more legs left to work, and we're going to work those into each of the next 2 chains. So working into the back bumps as we did previously. So we've 6 loops in our hook again, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, and then chain 1 to lock the stitch in place and create the eye. So let's go ahead and work a few more of those stitches now. So inserting our hook into that eye, yarn over and pull up a loop, inserting our hook into the last leg from the previous stitch and pull up a loop, insert it into the same chain as we worked the last leg of the previous stitch, and then finally into the back bump of each of the next 2 chains. Then yarn over, pull through all 6 loops and chain 1 to close the eye. So now you can see we have worked 3 star stitches here, and we just need to continue repeating that pattern all the way along the chain. Alrighty, so there we have worked all of our star stitches, and now we just have 1 more stitch left to work just to give a nice straight edge to the end of the row, and that is just going to be a half double crochet into that same chain where we worked the last leg of the star stitch. So now let's go straight into row 2. So the next row is going to be super easy. We are going to work a row in the moss stitch pattern. So sometimes with the star stitches you might see rows of solid single crochet for row 2, but I actually did a little bit of experimenting and I really liked the look that I got from this moss stitch, so that's what I'm going to show you. So we will chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do a single crochet in the top of that half double crochet that we just worked. Now we're going to do a single crochet in the eye of that last star stitch, so going right in there to the eye. So we'll do a single crochet in the eye, then we're going to do a chain 1 and then a single crochet in the next eye. So basically skipping the top of those single crochet 5 togethers and always working into the eye. And we'll just continue working that single crochet, chain 1 all the way along. Alrighty, so if you have a look at the start of the row, remember we did 2 single crochets at the start, so we're also going to finish off with 2 single crochets. So we have worked our stitch into the last eye here, and now I just have 1 more stitch left to work. And this is where you need to be careful that you don't go into the top of that first star stitch, you go into that turning chain. So we'll pop out our stitch marker, insert our hook under both loops of that chain, and just do a single crochet. And there we go. So that is row 2 done. So let's go straight into row 3 now. So it's going to be another row of star stitches. So we will chain 2 and try to keep these chains quite loose if you can. It's going to make starting the row a little bit easier. And now, just as we did with row 1, we're going to go into the back bumps of each of these chains. So again, this bit can be a little bit tricky, but if your chains are loose enough, you should be able to find that back bump. Insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert it into the next back bump, yarn over and pull up a loop. So that's our first 2 legs done. And now we're going to work each of the next 3 legs into the first 3 stitches here. So inserting into our first single crochet, into the next single crochet, and then into our chain 1 space. So now we have 6 loops on the hook. We're just going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops and chain 1 for our eye. And now we just need to work the rest of our star stitches in a really, really similar way to how we did in row 1. So we'll begin in the eye of the stitch, then we'll work the next leg into the last leg of the previous stitch. Then we're going to go into the same chain 1 space here that we just worked into, then into the next single crochet, then into the next chain 1 space. And then chain 1 to close that stitch. And that's it. We just need to repeat those star stitches all the way along. And then just as we did at the end of row 1, we're going to finish off the half double crochet into that last stitch as well. So there we have it. That is our 3rd row complete. Now, before you go on to row 4, which is going to be exactly the same as row 2, you might just want to come back to the start here and find that first chain there. So let's just have a quick look here. So here was our chain 1. Here's the top of the single crochet 5 together, and then here's our chain. And you probably will only need to do this for the first few rows really, and then after that you'll know exactly what you're doing, but I do find it helps a little just to mark that chain for the end of the next row. And there you have it. That's everything you need to know. So you literally just need to keep repeating rows 2 and 3 for the entire length of the pattern. So here is my finished dishcloth, and you can see that I've also added a very simple single crochet border all around the edge for a nice, neat finishing touch. Thank you so much for watching, and if you do have a second to like this video and subscribe, that would be absolutely amazing. I have lots more free crochet patterns and tutorials on this channel and on my website nedandmimi.com, so do check those out. Happy crocheting and take care.